So we are very good.
Hello.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay. So my audio is clear, right?
Yes. Yes.
All right.
So Sandeep, among your personal LinkedIn and the page, I'm prioritizing your personal.
What?
Uh, I'm prioritizing your personal LinkedIn over the company's LinkedIn.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Because my personal has more.
Yes, your audio is. We are very good.
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay. So my audio is clear, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
All right.
So Sandeep, among your personal LinkedIn and the page, I'm prioritizing your personal.
Yeah. What? That's okay.
Uh, I'm prioritizing your personal LinkedIn over the company's LinkedIn.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, sorry. There's an echo, and I was thinking that the question is being asked again. All right. Yeah.
Okay, so hello everyone. So welcome to the Tech Week 2024. It was anticipated from a long time, and now it's happening. So Tech Week 2024, a place for industry disruptors. So here, well, now first question arises like why to attend. So here in the Tech Week, you can learn from industry leaders. You can have networking opportunities. You can also pursue career development, exclusive sessions, and interactive learning. Here the tech week is gonna go for 5 days up to Friday. So in these 5 days, we have several speakers working in Fortune 500 companies, which will come here to share their views and their knowledge and their experience in the field of tech and AI or their specific research fields. So in that way, we can learn from industry leaders and connecting in the tech world or in any research world. What we believe is that networking is very important because when we network, when we group, then only the ideas awaken. Like when two ideas combine, then they become into big idea uh, uh, and a lot of things. So yeah, that's why networking is also much important. And also while attending the tech week, you will also gain the experience from the top working industrialist, and that will help you a lot in the career development. And this is gonna happen for the whole week, and the timing will be same from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. IST. And in that way, also it will be very interactive whereby, because you can ask your questions in the YouTube chat, and we will ask those questions after the speaker completes their talk. We will have a Q&A sessions where we will ask those questions to the speakers. So it is a golden opportunity for the students and working professionals to learn, grow, and network. The agenda for today, we will start with speakers introductions, and then we will also go into Q&A, and then the speakers will share their keynote sessions, like keynote insights, their things about their topics, their experience, and a lots of knowledge. And after that, we will also have a Q&A session with each speaker, where we will ask some of the questions which are which any of you want to ask. So yeah. Now let's first start with CloudxLab. So CloudxLab is a tech company where we promote hands-on learning on the fields of machine learning, deep learning, AI, generative AI, and big data technologies. And our goal is to make people employable and future ready. And that's our motto: build careers, improve lives. So here at CloudxLab, our main agenda is to upskill engineers in these technologies, to make them industry ready and to make them best in the industry by providing them with the hands-on knowledge. Here at the CloudX Lab, we have a very we what we believe is that if you that learning tech is not about a theory. Like you can never learn the tech if you are sitting at a place and watching a tutorials for I guess 2 hours or 3 hours or any number of hours. So in that way, you can never learn the tech. Tech only comes from practice, and that's why we have designed our lab and tutorials according to that motto. So in our lab, we have a setup from lab. We have a lab setup. So in that lab, we have all the pre-installed libraries which are needed in the field of AI, generative AI, machine learning, deep learning, big data, and DevOps. So you can practice all these concepts without worrying about installations and other things. And what we follow is that you could practice along with learning. Like here, which you can see that the topic being covered is the string concatenation in Python, and in the right side there is a lab. So in the left side you are we have given the instructions, and in the right side you have to perform that exercise, and that's our way of learning, by performing the exercises in parallel to the learning. Now in CloudxLab we are also conducting the placement eligibility test. So in placement eligibility test, there are only 3 steps: give the test, then there will be a job matching, and get placed. So what happens is that we organize PET 2 times in a year. So in that, like we conducted two rounds. First is the screening, and second is mains. So first round will be screening, and the persons or all the people who clear the first round are redirected to mains. So like we are covering five domains in PET. So first, like machine learning, big data engineering, DevOps, software engineering, and data analyst. So these are the five roles which we are looking for. So we conduct these tests and then we connect you through the company. So after you are selected, like after you pass the PET, both screening and mains, we will connect you to connect you to the big companies, and then you can like follow the normal interview process. And yeah, so now I would like to introduce my teammate Gargi, and she will take it from here. Hi Gargi, are you there?
Hi, Shobh. Am I clear to you? Am I audible?
Yeah, you are clear.
All right. So I'm very happy to be participating in this event. And our keynote speaker, Nisheeth Srivastava, has joined us. So I would like to give a short introduction about him. He is the Chief Technology and Innovation Officer for the Capgemini in India. And we are pleased to have you, Nisheeth. From the aerospace and life sciences to automotive and consumer products in retail, he brings deep core industry insights to the Capgemini's innovations worldwide and co-innovates with big tech and startups to sculpt new dimensions in their future relevance. Nisheeth is an entrepreneur at heart and has founded, invested in, and mentored spectrum of startups over the past 30 years of his professional journey. He is an engineering graduate in electronics and communication from IIT BHU and presently serves on the advisory board of several startups, incubators, incubation hubs, and a top tier B school in India as well. So he's an active believer in the system of using failures as learning pathway and for the simplicity in designing and creativity in the business methods. So please join me in welcoming our distinguished keynote speaker, Nisheeth, for this Tech Week to 2024. So happy to have you.
I'm audible?
Yeah, Nisheeth, you are.
And I'm live, right? So I can't crack jokes.
You can
surely.
for sure.
Yeah, you can.
Yes. All right. Okay. So if you'd permit me, can I share my screen?
Yeah.
I just decided to knock a few slides together just to. All right, but thanks for that introduction. You know, Sandeep, you should not have mentioned the 30 years experience, man. You know, you know. Okay, so yeah, that's true actually. So yes, I have been around for a while, seen very early days of technology. Would like to think that I'm amongst those in the country who led the transformation right from start. From the times when we had, well, actually, you know, so many companies from those days that no longer exist, Netscape, PyPlanet, you know, the likes. But yeah, I will share some perspectives. The idea was obviously not to talk about generative AI as a technology to you a lot, because you probably already know quite a lot of that yourself, you know, and, you know, by all means, you can ask me questions along the way. Tell me if you can see my screen, guys. Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes.
What do you see, if I may ask?
I see Gen AI Panacea.
Okay, good. Right. Okay. So just
I
making
see
sure
the
that
presentation.
sorry?
I see the presentation. Yeah.
All right, good. Okay. So yeah, so my introduction, thanks Gargi for the longish introduction. But you know, I deliberately added this second part, right? A platinum grade, rules-studded entrepreneur. I've founded many startups, B2B, B2C, C2C. I've created startups on technologies that weren't a thing, like tokenization. I mean, not tokenization in the context AI, but tokenization as in blockchain, stuff like that before it became a thing. And I have, in that journey, of course, learned quite a lot. What's more important is that the learning is not really about technology per se, but about your ability to contextualize it and understand the majority of the cycle of the technology in context of the present day business, right? So a lot of learning there. I will try and reflect on some of them, but the focus for me right now at the moment for you is on whether or not Gen AI is a panacea. Okay. Now, I have a few key building blocks on that. Sandeep, you can just confirm if my slide is moved because I was facing some trouble earlier.
Yeah, I can see. I can
Okay.
see it moving.
All right. So now, before we start, okay, and considering that this technology, I don't treat it to be a technology which is like any other small technology, which is like a tool, okay, in the hands of the user. This is a very different grade of technology. Sometimes I am a little hesitant to even club it together with AI because where we are headed with this thing and the kind of ramifications it has, okay, is completely different. But what remains, whether you take in whatever dimension you take, what remains relevant for the success of a technology, at the very least, the start point, if you're a business, it means that you have at least one client. Okay, so that's the clarity of thought that we need to have, right? If you have a client, the client experience that you have is absolutely paramount, right? So customer experience, whether that be a consumer or a business or a partner or an internal clients, your employees, your shareholders, your investors, that's a reality. That's at the heart of everything, and therefore the experience. Okay, what generative AI has done is astounded the best of us. Okay, if you're the gold benchmark is that if your grandmom wants to use it, not just can use it, okay, you've got it done. Okay, so a client is the heart of any successful technology. And the other very, very important part that I think is more relevant than ever before now is the entire collaboration ecosystem. Okay, so today, when I do what I do in Capgemini, but and I've known Sandeep for a while. I've tracked many of his startups in his past life as he has mine. Okay, we have to all work together. Yeah. Now, it may not be a direct, it may be an indirect method, it may be a collaboration of different proportions, but we work with startups a great deal. Okay, and I'm hoping that today on the call here, we have a lot of our startup friends, today. Okay, now with that perspective, a client and a collaboration mesh, okay, which is intelligent mesh, I move on to what I believe are the important. Well, I've ordered them as P's, 6 P's, to talk about generative AI from many different lenses, right? So first and foremost, okay, for me is purpose. We have to have the purpose, okay, for any technology. What is it that you're going to use it for? Are you clear as a business to consumer enterprise? Are you clear as a technology big tech company, for example, as a startup? Gen AI is not the panacea for everything. Okay, so simplicity of your purpose is really important, and I'll get down to each of these. Okay, people at the heart of it. This technology, by the way, whatever you've heard of in the media, in talks, in thought leadership papers from various universities and the like. Sandeep, you may have spoken about it quite a number of times. People, okay, getting impacted is a reality. Is that positively impacted or negatively impacted is the question, okay, and therefore the dimensions related to that. Planet, okay, is absolutely at the center of it. Okay, there are things about the technology which raise eyebrows, but that's another one. Principles, okay, things like bias, is that really a thing? For example, yeah, performance. is another one. And then the last one, which is profits, which is, unless and until the technology is profitable for everybody, it's not a technology, right? It won't last. Okay, open source is not the answer for everything. Sorry, Sandeep. It's not. Yeah. Okay. So let me just get into each of these because I'll only have maybe 12 more minutes. Okay. So now when we talk about purpose, right? Gen AI, there's a lot of argument on whether or not it has agency. Is there a movement towards AGI, advanced general intelligence, towards singularity, towards whatever? Guys, look, it's a technology. Okay, it's in its infancy. There's a lot of ambitions from the technology. Is there a goal that we are chasing with generative AI? Absolutely. The goal is to harness, the power of Gen AI to drive innovation, right, and real world problems. But in that goal, is Gen AI the right technology? Is the question, right? So the point is that there has to be a purpose embedded in it. The purpose has to be innovation, real world problems, people problems, societal problems, etc. And is there fairness and bias in the whole the transparency in the whole thing? Now, if you look at it, where we are with regards to Gen AI, until very recently, right, there was an accusation, of there being biases, of copyright violations and the like. Does the technology stand true to all of those perspectives? I don't think we are clear. If we, through neurotechnology, are trying to unravel the inside of our brains today, and if we are not able to do mechanistic interpretability of the models, if we're not able to understand what the matrices are actually doing, okay, there is no, sense for whether or not the technology is, really doing what we had anticipated it would. Then we have a bit of a challenge. Okay, there is some journey to go. We understand the purpose. What we don't understand is whether or not this technology in its current state of evolution, okay, is the right technology. Now, here's the thing. You will never be able to assess the technology based on an absolute canvas. Okay? You'll have different types of canvases within the commercial world. So, for example, where you talk about, let's say, low temperature scenarios, okay, which is where you expect more repeatable, okay, outputs, okay, versus high temperature settings. I'm expecting that the people here would understand the principles behind temperature, yeah, in the context of large language models. Okay, what becomes important is that for creativity, for your ads, for customer support, for those kinds of use cases, it's a brilliant technology. Is it really relevant for your financial analytics, for your customer relationship management, for your product management, your IP generation, etc.? At this moment, it would be meaningful for me to just suggest that you've got to be really, really careful about it. Okay. Now, remember that there was a huge euphoria around Gen AI. There still is. However, the rate at which it is being used in enterprises and paying customers after the initial kicking the tires world, a phase, I beg your pardon, okay, it's not quite there. Okay, so there is time before it finds its way into the heart of enterprises and what's core to their business and to their future relevance. But at the same time, when it comes to creativity and the sort, there is nothing quite like it. Okay. Now remember, when the calculator first, in my school, when it was first allowed those many years ago, the argument was that, calculator will take away it will impair your cognitive capability. You will not be able to add, multiply all that fast. That is actually true. Okay, I have seen in small towns, kiosk guys, okay, your sabzi wala, okay, doing the maths far faster. You wanted half a kilo, it is 550 grams. The guy knows the number. You gave a 100 rupee note, the guy knows the exact change to give you. Very, very fast, no calculator. That's a cognitive ability of a different kind. when excellence, okay, suddenly everybody's perspectives are excellent, really top grade. You looked at the LinkedIn post for most people, it is astounding how deep thinkers people have suddenly become. Okay, because everybody has that tool in their hands. They ask a question, they get the response, whether hallucinations or not. I beg your pardon. That's not the point. Okay, excellence has become the new mediocrity. Okay, and when the mediocrity, okay, everybody, comes at the same level, there will then be a need to get onto the next level, right? So therefore, what I'm saying is that the ability for for a technology to be able to drive that behavior is absolutely critical. Okay, people at the heart of it. Okay, will generative AI take away jobs? I've been asked that question so many times in the media. Um, okay, the answer is yes. It will take away certain kinds of jobs. Okay, but here's the thing. Okay, there's something called the Jevons paradox. Okay, for those of you who are not aware, so Jevons paradox. Okay, talks about every technology. Okay, when a chart busting technology comes along. Okay, and suddenly there's the entire humanity, sitting on the side and saying, imminent doom. The robots are going to take over. Okay. Now that fear has been there for the last, I don't know, since I've been in school. That's like 40 years ago. Okay, and it's been going on since then. Jevons paradox says, because of the enhanced productivity, okay, that every such technology is successful. Okay, blockchain was supposed to be a great technology 15 years ago. It's still not founded. So metaverse, oh gosh, everybody was jumping onto the metaverse bandwagon. And I don't think it's dead. I think it's got legs. It's just waiting for its time. God knows how long it will be. I mean, people like me, my teams, some of them might be on this call. We're working really hard to make it useful. The same with generative AI, right? It back to the Jevons paradox. What it says is that any technology, when it comes in and a successful one like that, will improve your productivity to an extent that the whole world expects. The services, the utilities, the ability to make money, profits, upliftment out of poverty, connectivity, the ability to just inspire creativity in the actually 8 billion people. Well, not all of them are whatever, but in their different ways, 8 billion people on earth. Even half of them, okay, to be able to give them the empowerment to do something meaningful, even incrementally, is going to change the world. All right. So yes, a sliver of the repetitive, mundane tasks are likely to go, but it will create, and I'll give you an example, maybe about 80% of the world's IT estate, okay, information systems estate is still on mainframes. Okay, it's a logged paradise. Nobody wants to touch it. It's really expensive. It is fantastic. It does never break. Okay, but it's obstructing innovation on all that it's sitting on. Okay, that 80% is like the surge in a dam we don't want. Okay, we open it up. There's so much work. We don't have the count of people needed. All right, so and we're beginning to do that. By the way, talking to so many of these defense, banking, financial institutions. The incredible number of services that they're lurking in those mainframes. Once you imagine, if you make them open and accessible to the innovation ecosystem comprising millions and millions of people like us on the call and outside, you can imagine, right? How many new services are going to find their way. The other thing around people is that I believe this technology, for the first time, will bring the core sciences together. Okay, so when you learned maths and science, beg your pardon, biology, chemistry, physics, right? What relevance did it have unless and until you went in for that one specific course? And most of us, we just became generalists, right? In software and medical or whatever. Rest of us don't ever use it. I believe that this technology will bring a relevance to the core sciences, okay? And I am guessing that even school kids will start to use the basic understanding of this technology to create hyper-local services. Very, very simple ones, but the magic will happen at the confluence of all of these. So particularly in the life sciences world, we're finding that, for the first time, your chemistry and biology and physics, all of them are actually coming together in ways never imagined, and it's opening up possibilities, which just confound imagination. People at the center of it, yes, I do believe, there'll be some impact in the short run. People will need to upskill themselves. Some of us on the call, hopefully, and many others, okay, will come up with enterprises that will upskill them. Those of them hesitant, reticent, okay, whatever, cross skilling, etc., will become a thing. Okay, I do believe that. So therefore, but for a blip, I think there is only great things, in store for humanity. Third one, okay, I'll move, is the planet, right? So now, in its current shape and form, is the technology, going to help us with a brighter future, more sustainable future? I think no. We know that for sure. I mean, just these training these models is consuming the equivalent power of powering many countries altogether. Most of it is still fossil fuel. Okay, fine, nuclear and the like, wind farms, you've got that. I really doubt if the current structure and the model can be sustained for very, very long. Okay, and therefore my view that low entropy solutions, okay, of the sort that actually we invested in a startup recently, on alternative technologies to transformer models. Okay, so stuff like liquid neural networks, you have graph neural networks, very, very powerful stuff coming in. But the important thing is low entropy and low energy, okay, to run such models. It is necessary, just like the EV world, right? I mean, you've got a graveyard of EV, companies mounting now. Okay, it's becoming a mountain. There's such euphoria, trillions being pumped into it. You needed to have gone through that investment, the pain, the hurt, the collapses, to get on and discover the next thing, and that's called evolution, right? So, and that's just how it is. So I do believe that the current transformer model will continue for a long while, but there will be many other new technologies which will come up, which will be different, and then a combination of technologies, okay, for what we know as generative AI, okay, will be the eventual scenario as we go along. Okay, now it's also important that in the context of planet, you talk about biodiversity. Okay, so there are very important programs already underway where using computer vision, or actually the next level of computer vision. Computer vision is now old, but Gen AI, is making it possible to reimagine different ways of identifying objects. You would have seen 4.0 launch. Some of you might have played with it already, and the multimodal features. You're able to recognize objects. You're able to get a sense if you do things for the depth of field and stuff like that. And what it does is some incredible stuff. So your ability to identify certain organisms which are alien and harmful for the local diversity, your ability to create new mechanisms, okay, plant-based mechanisms, okay, to do carbon sequestration, for example, right, and stuff like that is going to get really critical. And actually, by the way, generative AI, while on the one hand consuming significant amount of energy, is also making it possible to reimagine different methods and ways to tame, carbon. Okay, so if carbon be the problem, can I still go on burning fossil fuel and still be able to, I don't know, do something clever with the carbon front? Maybe some of you might do it here. Maybe, somebody else might do it. But all of those things are becoming possible. Yeah. Okay. Principles. Okay, some of you will remember this totem. Okay, from the movie Inception. Dream within a dream within a dream, reality within a reality. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, it's so tempting for most people to talk about generative AI in the context of humans. I should probably have used a different visual. Some of you would know, for example, have you heard of sponges? They are underwater, under ocean, like plants. Okay, large bodies with zero neurons. Huh? There's no neurons in there. They eat, they reproduce, they breathe, they do all of that. In fact, by the way, they will respond to external, triggers also. Okay, and this is not a unicellular. Unicellular is a different kind of worms altogether. Huh? So most of you would know that half of the DNA in your body, or the cells, are not even yours. They're alien microorganisms. In your gut alone, billions and billions of different unicellular organisms, like E. coli bacteria, for example, right? It's got no nerve. But here's the thing: you poke E. coli, okay, it responds, it reacts, it emits carbon ions and all kinds of things. Okay, it did not need a nerve, okay, to do something in response to a trigger. So neural networks, yes, is a thing, but not the only thing. Okay, so and remember that there are billions of these things which are yet to be understood. By the way, these same things are able to connect through your vagus nerve, okay, into your neural network. So they're able to tap into your brain and actually make you change moods. By the way, a disharmony in your gut can change your moods, right? So they know how to trigger neural, triggers in your body. Look, so therefore, point is that generative AI, if we keep on talking about it only in terms of neural networks, then I'm sorry, I am running over time. Okay, the point is that it has to be based on principles. There has to be fairness. There has to be bias mitigation, and all of those things. Okay. Final two things, Sandeep, I will make haste. Performance. Okay, if the technology does not perform, okay, and there's plenty to be done. Okay, I'm sorry if it's not moving, but today you have those models, entire transformers being burnt on chips. You'll have plenty other new technologies coming up. Okay, Blackwell from NVIDIA, it's been put on hold. The stock tanked just a couple of days ago for that reason. Okay, we've got something here which has been performing well, but it is purely based on a technology which is currently focusing on next word prediction. Okay, and that can only go this far. If you look at the linguistics world, the way humans communicate, it is a multidimensional thing which we have not yet been able to get to. Okay, so there's a long way to go. Okay, before it can become truly performant, not just in terms of its speed to respond, but also in terms of the semantics of what the output that it gives out. Okay, and lastly, okay, profits. Okay, any technology. Okay, unless and until money is there to be made by those that have created it. Okay, it's not going anywhere. Okay, nearly $1 trillion gone. Okay, into training, and more being pumped in, hundreds of billions actually being pumped in every month, or I think every month. Okay, between these big players, okay, being able to make money out of that, not in sight yet. Open source models, Llama with 400 billion parameters. Yeah, it was supposed to have been launched 3 months ago, now 3 weeks ago, last week. I don't know what the gig is there. But nevertheless, the point is that a lot of money has gone in, okay, into this technology. Big tech will try and make sure that everybody worth their salt, okay, use the technology, and they'll make them pay for it. People like me pay through our nose. It's not just a license, it's a very compute use, the OPEX, which shoots up. But here's the thing. I don't believe the IT industry itself spends that much, meaning, on a service. It's not likely to be very profitable. There needs to be a very, very different method to crack this. And maybe some of you will do it. Okay, so anyhow, so the point is that if you look at it holistically, generative AI has a lot of legs, but it's still in its infancy. There are a lot of ticks in the box that it does, but plenty more that it doesn't. Okay, my guess is it's not what will remain in the next couple of years. Okay, so Thank you for the spotlight, Sandeep. Grateful for the privilege. I hope it was useful.
Of course, it was wonderful. I really loved it, and a lot of insightful thoughts. Great, great. Shubh, do you have questions from the audience?
Yeah, hi Nisheeth. Like that was a very great talk and very insightful. So we have some questions from the audience. So like the first question is like as you told that there are several limitations of the rising technology that generative AI is in the right for now. So there are some limitations will be which will be addressed over time. So one of the limitations is evaluating the LLMs. Like suppose for example if we are building a rack pipeline, and in that case like we got a new model and now we have to update our pipeline for the new model. Now, how we can evaluate the results, like which one is performing better? Like, what are
Oh,
your
wow.
views on this?
Okay, I wish I could answer that question in a manner that anybody would believe me. Point is, if I build something today, and look, this is being done by there's some benchmarking labs. Okay, so the benchmarking numbers are out there, but they track the models that they do. Okay, so those are the people that you will gun for. But if I had to, let's say you were to ask me to develop something of this sort, what would I develop it on? Okay, because the technology that I had prepared myself for, okay, the number of parameters that I'm looking to evaluate will change tomorrow. It's changing rapidly. Okay, so I wouldn't then put my money behind evaluation of parameters that where parameters themselves keep on changing because of the sheer incredible spectrum of new possibilities that need to be measured, right? So right from like industry to industry, right? So computational fluid dynamics in the aerospace industry, right? I need to be able to track the fluid motion. Now, what are those parameters? I'm not going to measure that. My need, by the way, 80% of the world, I think the other sector, aerospace and defense is the one sector where 80%, I think the highest, okay, have already gotten onto generative AI. They have no clue because here you need quantum technologies, to be able to play around with those many parameters. So I think you'll just have to rely on the existing agencies that do the benchmarks. Okay, but beyond that, I wouldn't put my money behind setting up my own. It's going to be a very expensive affair.
That answers my question and audience's question. One other question is like, in your experience, what strategies have like proven most efficient in fostering a culture of innovation within a large organization like Capgemini, like system change over time? How like the integration goes on?
So two things, I think. One is simplicity of thought. Okay, it is so tempting for, and I see this quite frequently, and I mentor a lot of incubators in IIT, startup incubators. A lot of very bright ideas, and they're very bright ideas, bright solutions. There's no problem. The problem that they seem to be solving is an imaginary one. They went and created a solution. The simplicity of thought, logical reasoning, okay, goes missing. Okay, so for you to create a culture of innovation, keep ensuring that there is simplicity of thought and purpose. Don't use the technology for the sake of it. Where AI, good old-fashioned AI can do, don't bring in generative AI. It just doesn't make sense. The other, I think, even more important thing for a role like mine, okay, is to encourage your colleagues to make a lot of mistakes. Okay, and when they are given that freedom to try and get hurt and fail sometimes quite miserably, one, they learn. Importantly, they have enough masala now over a spectrum of such failures to make sure that the clients don't have to make the same mistakes again. And that's very valuable. Okay, so you can't be an innovator riding on successes alone because success doesn't bring you a spectrum of reasons, okay, that work. Failures do, right? It is a very, very important gate. criteria, I think, in my team but make the mistake only once. Don't make the same mistake again and again. Okay, make the mistake, learn from it, make the next mistake, not the same mistake. Okay, so that's how you keep the culture going. And it becomes a really, 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 you shed your egos, okay, and that's when things actually start working.
That like your answer generates more questions in my mind. I guess I'll keep it for my night time.
All right.
One last question is like considering your experience in building so many startups, like what guidance would you offer to startups aiming to build successful partners with large technology firms?
Okay. So, sitting where I do, I engage with a lot of startups, okay? And, all kinds of startups, right? The very, very young, the just about successful, and the wildly successful, all of them. My advice to actually, because this is a session on Gen AI, I have a new thought, because the question that you've asked, actually go to Chat GPT for the answer. Frankly, you'll get a very, very structured response, okay? You don't need Nisheeth to tell you the response, to be honest. I'll tell you here's the new idea, okay? What about, and given that you are Gen AI folks, you create tentacles out in the social media, okay? You know what you're doing, you know the problems you're solving. First, try to adapt what you've built across multiple industries. Does it have legs? Because you created something with one problem statement in mind, and please pursue that with focus. I'm not saying dissipate your focus here, but know your position in the ecosystem. So adapt your idea to multiple industries. So if you're there in automotive, mobility, or something like that, get into aerospace, get into something else, telco, I don't know, life sciences. It's very strange what you can do across these industries. Number one, that opens up your mind to multiple dimensions and multiple perspectives. It also enhances the possibility of your partnership, prospects. Number two, do your social listening. Create your algorithms, okay? Find out companies that have been talking on the topic that you are connected with, okay? You will find, of course, keep the temperatures very high. Let it hallucinate, that's fine, because you need it to be imaginative, creative. Hallucinations will be there. On this occasion, I would like to call hallucination, a very, very productive creation process. You will learn what not to do, what's wrong, what's, bull, right? But you will also learn many, many other types of clients and use cases that you have not imagined. When you have that clarity of thought, build a story, okay? Go to social media, you will find clients wanting to talk to you. It's in your hand now. It's never been done, okay? I did an open innovation conclave last year where this was what I proposed, and it was a cross-border startup collaboration, global and Indian startups. It completely beat every other, okay, rationale, topic, point of view, black and blue. This is the next way. You will find your clients who are looking for you, don't know you exist. You'll do that because the system allows you to. You'll make mistakes, and that's fine. I mean, any of you who've done active sales knows, there is a funnel, and it'll always remain a funnel. It'll always be a small fraction. Expand the mouth of the funnel, you'll work wonders. Sandeep, there's a thought, huh? Another startup from your stables, huh?
Yeah. And I think for my next startup, that's what I'm going to do. Yeah. Yeah. I like it. Wonderful. Thank you, Nisheeth. Yeah.
Pleasure was mine. I hope this is useful for your audience.
For me, it was useful. I don't know about others. Yeah.
Cheers, guys.
So that was a wonderful session. Like I myself was very encouraged to the insights that Nisheeth has shared. And going forward, like as we move ahead with the Tech Week now, I encourage the audience who is there to ask as many questions as they want to, because now it's time to introduce our next speaker, which is Sandeep Giri himself. And he's a tech industry veteran with over 22 years of experience. It was necessary to mention. And he's a founder and CEO of CloudxLab, whereas his career began at DE Shaw and also includes impactful roles at Amazon, InMobile, and DevRev as well. So at Amazon, he led the rapid development of the mobile hybrid app for the Amazon product detail page, showcasing the experience. He's a researcher with deep expertise in large language models, deep learning, and machine learning. Sandeep is a passionate engineer about integrating engineering and product development with machine learning and to enhance the customer experience. He is an IIT Roorkee graduate. Sandeep has co-founded the software development group, IMG, which is called, and contributed to several pioneering projects. Beyond his professional work, he mentors aspiring tech leaders and has built a large AI community, speaking frequently on AI and machine learning. So let's welcome Sandeep Giri. Sandeep, over to you.
All right, thank you, Gargi. And yes, I'm really, really happy that my team at CloudxLab is able to host the entire event. And I'm really thankful to the speakers who have lined up. Specifically, I mean, you have already listened to Nisheeth, and I'm amazed at the kind of industry experts who have volunteered to speak. And yes, so I also want to share my I mean, I'll not have a presentation for this. Instead, I want to keep it a very candid discussion, very open discussion. And so one of the projects that I'm working with as of today is applying the AI for cancer research. This is a real work on the cancer research. And it's a very interesting work that probably is happening right now. While the world is split between, whether AI is going to help in humanity or is it just hallucinating? And yeah, so one of the things that is happening as of today is, okay, let me step back and say. So on one hand, the world is split into, discussing about hallucinations and misinformation and whatnot. On the other hand, the world is trying to figure out how to utilize large language models and what is right use case, what is not right use case, right? So for example, when we look forward to ChatGPT to give an answer, and we saw that, oh, it answered that all the informative questions. It's not really a feature of a large language model. It's actually a bug of a large language model. It's a memorization. It has memorized things and is telling it, right? So we need to understand how do we utilize a large language model into various use cases. One of the great use cases that I'm right now working on is that we have, let's say, we have all the documents, all the patient records from the history. Now we want to figure out which medicine worked, which medicine did not work. Now, one way is to go through all these doctors' prescription manually and list down all the diagnoses that were given, which medicines were given, which diagnosis was given, and what time the medicine was given, was the medicine followed, and was there a change, was there a side effect? if we extract all the information from the from the from from the doctor's prescription to the patient, right? So we'll have this data structured in certain manner, and we can do the cause and effect analysis. And thereby, we can predict what's the solution for each of the disease, right? So essentially, keeping this in mind, our biggest challenge so far had been that the documents are available in last, even though the documents are available in last 40 years, right? The ability to extract information from these documents is not available, right? We have systems as of today in last since the time of the invention of the computers, people have been trying to figure out how to store medical records scalably for all the patients. So far, one of the biggest innovations we have done is in terms of data engineering and in terms of software engineering and the hardware in order to manage the data. Now we have the data. We have the reports of the hospitals have the reports of prescription scanned and available. So the work that I'm doing right now is on this line, that we have all the documents available, but these are scanned documents. Now, given these documents, we want to figure out which of the therapies were effective on which body part when done from this date to this date, and what was the dose, what was the various all other kinds of parameters that are given for, let's say, radiation. Similarly, for surgery, like when were the surgery performed, what happened, and so on. So we are basically imagine that we have, let's say, 20 million documents of say 20 million patients from the history. And we basically extract all this information from the scanned copies of the documents. Then, using the machine learning models, we would be able to figure out which of the diagnosis and which of the diagnoses were right, which of the medicines were right, which were which of the radiation which of the radiation therapy is most effective on what body part, and so on. So you can imagine that if we are able to do this, we would be able to improve the healthcare drastically, right? And the greatest part about large language model here, now you might say that where is large language model, right? So there are so many important aspects of it. So you have a scanned copy and you want to figure out on what date the surgery was done, right? Or whether this document contains information about surgery. Okay, so you have a document and this is scanned copy. So you have to first extract the text from this scanned copy, and then you have to figure out a way or a model in order to extract this information from this text. Now, earlier, the OCR, we called this technology to convert the image to text, OCR, optical character recognition. And earlier we had something this OCR was based on a simple machine learning. Then it became based on deep neural networks. We call that, right, one of the kind of neural network like LSTM. One of the open source software like Tesseract provides you this API, provides you this capability of doing OCR at a very high accuracy. So, but and Tesseract also moved from the classic approach to LSTM based approach. But now, when the LLMs have come in, the LLMs can augment this LLMs can augment the OCR and make the document, I mean, extracting the information very much possible, right? For example, think of this way, that when you have the prescription written by hand by a doctor, you can't read it, but the medical representative can read it, or somebody who has somebody who is sitting at the medical store can read it, right? Why? Because the person at the medical store has an understanding about the medicines. They can see, oh, this was the diagnosis, and therefore, similarly, an LLM augmented OCR is much more robust than the normal OCR. So LLM, as you see it may not look like very useful thing to you when it comes to medical things, but it's actually is very powerful. So when you augment OCR with LLM, that gives you great results. So that's a first use of the LLM. The second use of LLM is giving a neat document. If there are spelling mistakes by OCR, because when it was extracting characters, you can actually just rewrite it using an LLM. Next is extracting information. When the document is in well form, you can extract it using this. Now, on the other hand, there's a cost implications when you are trying to use most effective LLM, whether you are using your own LLM or you are using OpenAI's LLM API, both are going to cost you. Okay. Up to a certain critical size of your number of requests, the chances are that your own hosted model will be much more costly than using OpenAI. Okay. So there is a cost associated with running a large language model, right? Whether internal or external, but there's a cost. Now, question is, can you minimize this cost in some way? So one of the ideas is that if you have, let's say, 100 million documents, and these 100 million documents may or may not be related to a particular disease, or they may or may not have, let's say, any diagnosis. You've paid a visit to a doctor, basically said, right, get these tests done, and that's it. There's nothing else. So that document is useless. So unnecessarily processing this document and then wasting all the LLM and all the energy does not make sense, right? Therefore, the second use case of the LLM is to minimize the cost itself. So what we are doing is building a machine learning model which is on top of LLM that looks at the document and recognizes whether it has the information or not. Okay, so the first use case of LLM in this was to extract the information from a scanned copy of the image. The second use case is giving a scanned copy of the image and some rudimentary OCR working on it, rewording it to make it more sensible. Third is, of course, extracting information. And before that, classifying whether a document is relevant or not can also be done using an LLM, right? Now, this is where you may not realize that the way we look at the LLM is that we ask a question, it gives an answer. But that's not it. You can essentially build a machine learning model on top of it, right? You can ask an LLM that don't give me an answer. You can use an API called embedding, and it would give you a bunch of numbers. That bunch of numbers would represent meaning. So I have also talked about in my previous talks that using embeddings, you can do magics. And that magic, this is where a lot of magic is happening, right? So on one hand, you are using the large language model to generate the response in the context, like by providing a context, you ask questions on it. That is one use case. Okay. Or you ask it to generate code, you ask it to generate, Python code, SQL code, you ask it to generate the prompt for itself and so on. That is one way of using LLM. The other way of using LLM is that you basically extract it to, you ask it, use an embedding API, and it gives you the embedding, and then using that, you can do all kinds of magic. Now, this phenomenon that I'm seeing right now, the research that I'm doing, the results are remarkably better. Now, this is very surprising to everybody. Okay. So on one hand, we have lots of human annotators. Okay. Lots of people like who have experience as nurses and doctors. They are annotating the documents, saying that this start date, this end date. So we are extracting the information using like people are marking it. Okay. People are marking what was used. Now, what we are doing is, let's say, how would we know that the annotators are doing a good job? Okay. So what we did was, this is the standard term, those who are coming from the medical background. This is a standard term called inter-annotator agreement, right? So what you do is you make two annotators annotate a document. Two annotators put marking on the same document without each other telling them. And then what you do is you basically compare both of them. So that if two annotators are agreeing on something, that means that thing is the golden data. So this is how you prepare golden data. Now, here is an amazing part. The LLM is able to generate better than any annotator. And when we are seeing, even after two human annotators agreed on something, the LLM actually did a better job than both of them. So there are many cases where that is coming up. So something like extracting information from 10 million documents was not possible financially as well as humanly, okay, because of the kind of mistakes we do and the kind of mistakes. I myself, when I sat down and annotated these documents, I made a lot of mistakes. Error is human. It is, very common. We are designed to be a versatile machines who can, we are very versatile beings. We can do lots of things. We are not really very good at a very specific thing. Like, for example, I am not better than Hammer. Hammer can do something better. Therefore, as humans, we are supposed to invent Hammer rather than be Hammer. Similarly, we are supposed to design these tools which can help us do this specific task like annotating documents, rather than, we're trying to build a machine which can do the annotation better than the human. And this is where a very important thought comes in, that you basically focus more and more in designing these systems who can do a way better work than ourselves. And keeping this in, with that thought, as of today, going through hundreds of millions of documents or prescriptions of the worldwide data is very much possible. This was unthinkable before. Yes. And on top of it, one of the things that I forgot to mention, that when we send this data to, say, LLM, a lot of engineering goes in removing the PHI data. So all of the engineering around PHI data is also done with machine learning models. So in summary, the the summary of my entire discussion is that this project, the one that I'm working on right now, is a big example of how LLMs are helping humanity live better. Okay. And also this project is making it possible for saving so many lives in future. And with that, LLMs and machine learning, LLM, machine learning, computing, all of that together is much, much more useful now as compared to in past. All right. So, I mean, my request to everybody who's listening to my talk today is instead of wasting time in arguing about AI is taking over or not, let's all focus all our time productively to enhance life of people. And this is one such project that I'm working on. Thank you, everyone. I look forward to the questions.
Yeah, hello Sandeep. That was a very nice session, and it's a very good for your contribution in medical field, which is much required by the industry today. So we do have some questions. One person have suggested a solution, I guess. So he wants to just evaluate it. So he's asking, can we use LLMs in identifying the symptoms and then suggest the medical department that should be consulted? Okay, I guess whether physician or surgeon. So can we do that, Sandeep?
Okay. So one is like I demonstrated in my last talk that you ask an LLM 1 plus 2 minus 3 divided by 4. Okay. And you give it other answers, it doesn't match it. It doesn't work. Okay. So it's a language interpretation machine. The way you should always think of LLM as a language interpretation machine. Okay. And if you give it a framework, if you, let's say, have a framework whereby there is a, something, so you have to design a solution in a way that, I'm just thinking impromptu about the question. Question is pretty deep. That if Okay, let me start from the beginning. The question is very interesting, and I'll connect the dots. So the question is, can we use it for diagnosis of the disease? Okay. The quick answer is not in the plain format. There will be hallucinations. There will be mistakes. It might tell you a diagnosis and a solution for a disease that may not exist. Okay. Second, it may not be able to figure out what other questions to ask the patient to extract more information and context about the disease. Okay. And again, it would be fairly hard to get a right answer, but it's very much possible. It won't be just plain straightforward, you asking ChatGPT that these are my disease and tell me the solution. That won't work. The way it would work is, number one, you give it a framework to operate. You give it a detailed context that right? Or if you have built a rule-based system already, okay, let's say you already have built a rule-based system where you provide all the symptoms and then there is a decision tree that leads it to somewhere. Okay, so let's say you already have coded a decision tree which takes the disease and it keeps on asking you further and further, right? Now that decision tree, you can connect that decision tree with the LLM so that the LLM can interact with the decision tree and then answer the question more logically. So in a bigger words, yes, you will have to solve. You'll have to probably build your own detailed prompt. You'll have to build mechanics such as it can ask questions. You'll have to build probably a decision tree based solution internally by consulting doctors, and then connect the two together. And that's how they'll be much more reliable than just plain diagnosis machine. Okay.
Okay, nice. That was a very detailed answer, Sandeep, and I totally agree with you. One question from Akash is the very basic question: how did you come up with the idea of CloudxLab?
Okay. Okay. So CloudxLab is cloud-based lab, and I had left Amazon and started teaching people data engineering. And most of in the first batch, when I was teaching Hadoop and Hadoop and MongoDB, most of the people were struggling with setting up the lab. Okay. And what I did was I knew that setting up was possible, setting up on cloud is possible, right? Earlier, everybody was doing is they were giving virtual machines to people and people were downloading virtual machine, and that was just impossible solution. And what I did was I and there was one more teammate. We basically installed it on DigitalOcean or somewhere. Yeah, DigitalOcean, the Hadoop and everything. And I created one or two accounts for the entire of my class and told them, please share the logins. And this is where everybody was able to do it, because if out of 20 people, there were around 5 to 6 people who were not able to install on their local machine. And this was very annoying to me that it's not the problem of the learner that they are not able to set it up. There are really hard challenges to set it up. And that's why. So in a single sentence, CloudxLab was created out of a customer obsession that, we go extra length, and it became, it is a pretty good innovative solution. It was a pretty good innovative solution, and people use it even today. And the other problem was that I was not able to give feedbacks to people quickly on their work. So then we created auto assessment, auto hands-on assessment, because there were thousands of people who were signing up for my courses. So I was not able to review their work and could not give them feedback. So we created hands-on assessment. And this is where the magic happened. This is where the things happened. So it came from our own need, right, and from our learners.
That's a very nice answer, Sandeep. One question is that, okay, so this is a technical question. So the question is that when we are implementing the generative AI applications in a real world, so like if we are using a framework such as LangChain and Llama Index, so they make it quite difficult to customize, or they limit us to our innovation, like what we can do. And if we are not using them, then there are no such functionalities to chain all the components and build the whole complete pipeline. So how to do the trade-off between how to solve this issue of customizability and innovation?
Mm, I didn't get the context. So yeah, could you go again? So you are saying that, so I do agree that, let's say you go with, today you go with a cloud service provider, right? They provide you this much functionality and you are tied to that, correct?
Yeah.
My strong suggestion to everybody who is trying to work on machine learning, AI, or deep learning, or DevOps, or any of them, focus learning on open source. Okay. And in open source, let's say Llama Index provides you all the functionality, right? No.
Yeah.
So focus on open source technologies, and if tomorrow when you become big, when you start, you need more production support and so on, then you can move to the tools like the commercial tools. What would be your suggestion, sir?
My suggestion will be to use some component from the open source framework and some to code up on your own. I guess that's the only way we
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, that's another thing I would like to add, that yes, I mean, you can only use those tools which which you understand, and how you understand it, you can code up yourself. Okay. I mean, that's like first principle thinking. I like it. And in most of my like courses and classes, we focus a lot on first principle thinking, and including the algorithms of machine learning. You basically learn by building those from scratch. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. All right. I think I'm already over time.
Yeah, that's all question from now, Sandeep. That was a very great session, Sandeep, and very thankful for sharing your deep insights on how using generative AI we can contribute to the medical field and solve the real world problems that we face while implementing generative AI today.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. All right.
Can we take some more questions as the next speaker joins us?
Okay. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So one question is that with as a generative AI is coming along, so a lot of people want to adapt to generative AI, like they want to learn generative AI, but they are stopped by such a deep sea of machine learning and deep learning. So like they fear to follow the sequential process of first studying a machine learning, then deep learning, and then going to generative AI and AI. So how should a person working in tech or even a beginner or a college student should start learning and deep learning and AI and generative AI, like where he should prioritize and where he should not?
Yeah. So I think a very important part for everybody to do is those who are okay with coding language or programming language is to start with building a project, right? Even each of our courses, what we did was, instead of going through algorithms first, we just go through the end-to-end project in both. So my request to everybody would be that I mean, using LLM and Gen AI, it just that does not require any understanding of machine learning. Okay. It does not require an understanding of machine learning. What is required is using the API, Python API, or any other API for that matter. Okay. So on the other part, to solve a problem holistically, you do need understanding of machine learning, how to build a project, how to do all the things and so on. And you need to be able to understand the problem and rephrase the problem and convert the problem into something executable. So my suggestion would be that start with, like, I mean, there is no question. First, there is no doubt that you will have to learn machine learning. Everybody will have to learn machine learning. Okay, invariably. If you want to be part of, you want to solve a large problem for the customer, my request would be learn machine learning. The machine learning is no longer a course for only the scientists. Machine learning is a course for everybody. All right, like the way people did MBAs earlier, people would do the courses on machine learning. And the reason is that in every field as of today, it's applicable. The data science and machine learning is applicable everywhere. So if you are not interested in going deep dive into learning how each algorithm works, you can use all of those algorithms right away using the API, using the functions, using the SDKs available. And I would say that build a couple of projects go through those projects. At CloudxLab, there are quite a few projects available. You can just go through those projects, end-to-end projects, specifically in machine learning, and they'll give you an understanding. If you are afterwards, if you get more interested into like how does an algorithm work, how is the machine thinking, how is the machine working, then you can go detailed into maths and detailed into the algorithms. All right. With that, yeah, I hope I answered the question.
Yes, Sandeep, that was a very great to ignite the learners to move into ML.
All right. I think Rupesh is in. Hey, Rupesh, can you hear me?
Hey guys, how are you?
Yes.
How's it going?
Good to meet you. You are my first teacher in college. Yeah, she taught me a lot of computing. Long
I
time.
I was just remembering that as I was writing my intro, I was like, maybe I should.
Uh,
I was just thinking like, how did I end up being in computer engineering, or when I was actually electrical engineer? I was like thinking about all the days in computer center, and I was
yeah.
like, I don't know if I need to connect that story here, but anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, over to you, Gargi. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Sandeep, and thank you, Rupesh, for joining. So, for the audience who may not know you right now, I would like to introduce you briefly. So, Rupesh Nair is the founder and CEO of Intelo.ai, which is an advanced interactive insight platform that leverages AI to empower organizations with actionable insights. And Rupesh also serves on the advisory board for the future of talent at HR.com, offering guidance on talent management and industry trends. So he's a very vast spanning career with roles such as president and CEO of Symphony Talent, vice president of global lead for consumer engagement at Sapien Nitro, and vice president of e-commerce at Equity Group. Rupesh has consistently demonstrated expertise in business strategy, leadership, and innovation. His academic credentials are vast, which also include MBA from Columbia Business School and another from UC Berkeley, has School of Business, along with a BTech degree in electrical engineering from IIT Roorkee. Rupesh's career reflects his deep commitment to innovation and strategic leadership in technology and recruitment marketing. So let's all please welcome Rupesh, our esteemed speaker. Hi, Rupesh. Over to you
Hey,
now.
how are you? Thank you. Appreciate it. And I'm going to quickly maybe share a few slides, if that's cool, and then get started here. Guess you guys can see my screen, and yeah, and thank you for inviting me out here. I don't think I've shared my screen here. All right, cool. You guys can see my screen?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Now, again, thank you for inviting me. And I was just chatting with Sandeep around how, we actually, got introduced while we were in IIT Roorkee, and now here it is, 25 years, maybe no, about 30 years later, almost. Kind of we are collaborating on this. So thank you for the opportunity, guys, to speak about a topic which is very near and dear to my heart. And again, overall, I know you guys are having a lot of fun, and I know you just have started with the Tech Week right now. But I know you're talking about AI in general, business disruption, AI transformations, a lot of things, and hopefully you'll learn a lot. But today, I wanted to talk a little bit about how AI is, disrupting or transforming industries in general, and then specifically tap a little bit into kind of, SaaS operations, specifically B2B SaaS operations, which is where my current focus is at the company I founded about 2 years ago, Intelo.ai. So before I get into the meats and potatoes of the conversation, I'll just quickly introduce myself. As we discussed, I'm an electrical engineer by trade, but quickly got into a company called Sapient, where I got hired out of college. and worked in internet technology. So at that time, it was all about kind of the .com and how does companies go online, and my focus was kind of trying to help companies, become .com efficient, and how do they really use the power of internet. And then from there, I ended up kind of working in experience transformation, which is kind of a related but extended area where how do organizations really use data and the omni-channel technologies available, mobile, internet, all the cool design frameworks available to really kind of create a awesome experience for consumers first, and then later at Symphony Talent, I did the same thing for talent experience. So overall, think about it as experience transformation, and the core was data and using data to really power that transformation. And then recently, about 2 years ago, I started Intelo.ai, and what we are doing at Intelo.ai is we are disrupting or reinventing in many ways how SaaS businesses interact and operate with their customers. And hopefully I can share some of the learnings as we go through in this presentation or discussion. So just the history, as we talk about very specifics, it's very important to kind of look back and think about the history of disruptive technologies in general, right? And what the point I'm trying to make here is this is not new. Humankind has seen disruptions, technology innovations across the history. At least my lifetime, I've seen the internet come in, I've seen the mobile phones come in, and some of you probably were not around when internet and mobile phone first was started using in the world. But the reality is some of this really started hitting us, into the mainstream. For example, internet really became household name only in early 2000s, if you look at it, at least in some parts of India, right? And then kind of as you think about the mobile phone, right? Same thing, right? And then it took time for the technology to really, get in and become part of our day-to-day lives. But what I see different in what we are seeing in the way AI is, disrupting or transforming or helping our lives, that the impact has been really quick this time around. So the key takeaway from this slide is really, this is not new. We have seen disruption. So let's not get into the whole conversation around, is AI going to kind of replace humans in the thing? Because yeah, just because steam engines were invented, we didn't stop going to places. We just started going to places faster. And we just started going to places in a more efficient way, in a more fun way, right? And that's basically in a more human way in many ways, if you start looking at kind of closer to what we are doing right now. So yes, AI is coming, and AI has already come, and it's disrupting our lives really fast. The difference this time around is it is changing every day as you look at new things which are coming in from an AI perspective. What we called AI when I started using the terminology AI in my paper when I was in IIT Roorkee is very different from what we call AI today with all the different innovations we have. And also it's going to be very different from what AI is going to be tomorrow. That's the only constant when I see there. But then when you look at all these tools, all these innovations out there, I want us to kind of step back and think about what is the constant. The constant is our emotional quotient, our ability to really think about creating that human experience and creating that capability, that making our lives better, making each other's lives better, right? That's where I think the constant has been. If you look at all the technology disruptions, the way it has been used and the way it has come to life. I know there are always pros and cons of every technology innovation, but when you look at it, how humans have used it with their emotional quotient and really kind of used it for the benefit of humanity, that's been the only constant through all these innovations. And then the other thing is human curiosity. How did this enable human curiosity, which is a constant, which I want us to think about these two things as we think about AI and transformation and disruption. And as we think about applying AI into businesses, because at the end of the day, technology is great, but it's completely useless unless it can solve real world problems, real business problems, real human problems. So I want us to keep that in mind, because I'll come back to it at the end of the conversation to kind of connect the dots on how some of this is very, very applicable as we think about, something as boring in some cases as SaaS operations, because I know some of you probably are not even aware the complexities involved in SaaS operations, which I'll walk through in a little bit. But as I try to connect the dots at the end, keep this in mind, that this is the constant and this will remain the constant as humans continue to innovate in the future. So before I get into how we are disrupting SaaS operations, I want you to kind of see how many SaaS tools you probably already know about, you use in many forms, right? Zoom we are on, or the is a SaaS tool as an example, right? And I just wanted to put it out there, but just from a dictionary definition of SaaS, those are companies basically providing subscribing users with access to programs via internet. So that's basically what SaaS is. And before SaaS, we used to have on-prem solutions, basically and custom solutions, which were built by companies for their specific problems. And now we have these SaaS solutions, which we can really use for our own problems, but actually come in and add whatever we want, subscribe whatever we want to our capabilities at the end of the day, right? And similarly, companies do the same. They add or subscribe to these capabilities as they try to manage their business. And this is a very common thing, and SaaS become pretty big over the last, I would say, 15, 20 years, when Salesforce probably is considered as the father and mother of SaaS at a big picture. But now we have tons of SaaS companies which are out there. So what we do at Intelo.ai, just so that you have the context as we have this conversation, is we help these SaaS companies really kind of work with their customers in a much more human but automated way at scale, right? And at the end of the day, really kind of ensuring that they can really bring in the power of AI into disrupting how they work with their customers. But I'll get to specific. I'm going to not specifically talk about what we do, honestly, but more talk about what is happening in the space in general, so that it can be more of a learning experience for you all. But if you have a question at some point or want to reach out to me offline, feel free to jump, send me a text or send me a LinkedIn note or ask a question on this call about what Intelo.ai does. But coming specifically to SaaS operations, now these SaaS companies grew really fast in the last 15 years. There are many SaaS companies which came into business, but SaaS operations became more and more complex as SaaS companies came into business. So finance was, they needed to bring in a lot of tools to kind of really support their finance, their HR, their product management capabilities and engineering capabilities, the way they collaborate as teams like Zoom, Slack, Teams, other things you've heard about. And then the whole suite of stack, which basically is in the context of marketing, sales, and service, which is how do they market to their customers? How do they bring, drive awareness to their customers? How do they really, sell to their customers in the process? And how do they really, service their customers post the sales, really creating that overall success for customers and for themselves? And if you look at it, it is just amazing how many different tools companies use today. And this is, when I say today, think about it as the pre-AI world, where disruption is still happening in our minds. Basically, in the marketing, in the SaaS marketing space, in the SaaS sales and SaaS service space, there are tons of platforms which people use, and one company actually ends up using a lot of platforms. So, but before I jump into that, I want to kind of give you a little bit of context on what some of those stack are: marketing stack, sales stack, and service stack, and how some of this is getting disrupted is the next conversation we'll get into, right? So overall, think about these three areas as the customer platforms area, which is how do we work with our customers and how do we manage our customers? And then when we think about marketing technology stack, right? So there is all these things which helps us acquire customers, nurture customers, then really retain their customers to the marketing funnel. And then, all the analytics and insights required to see how the customers are doing, the communication back and forth to the customer, and eventually productivity of the marketing team, and ensuring that the organizations are really able to measure and scale based on the needs of the organization. And there are like tons of solutions available, and which companies actually choose across the spectrum of these needs around acquisition to productivity, where they choose today and bring into their marketing stack and touches their touches their different customers. Similarly, in the sales tech stack, right, today, again, just giving you a context on all the different sales technologies available. I'm sure you guys have heard about the CRM, which is a Salesforce and similar technologies. But then there are technologies which are very point solutions, which helps them with prospecting. And then inside prospecting itself, they have separate technology for contact data, lead ranking, enriching the leads, social applications, automation of emails, dialing, so on and so forth. And similarly, qualifying the customer, like really the demo presentation, creating proposals, really pricing and quoting, CPQ as they call it, and updating the CRM and keeping that information up to date. And then eventually through the close process, right, really be able to manage the customer signatures and things like that. Think about the sales operations and all the platforms which goes into really kind of managing the operations and eventually kind of retaining the customers, really being able to work with their customers that ensure that their customer people are really managing and retaining their customers. The whole suite of technologies being used for that, which is basically out there to be added as by SaaS companies or even any company in that context as solutions which they can bring in to kind of solve for their customers. And then once they acquire their customers, they have the whole customer service tech stack, which provides the ability to basically drive adoption, manage projects, get customer feedback, really do product analytics, subscription management, support, all the stuff around that, right? So basically lets them do all the post-sale cycle and really manage them through the story, right? And what is the most interesting part of this is because some of these companies grew really fast, because some of these point solutions were solving for specific things, little known fact, and actually now it's not a little known fact anymore. Around 3 years ago, I was sitting with my CFO in my previous company, and we listed down the solutions we use that touch our customers. And literally it is out of these 3 areas of solutions. And there were about 40 solutions we were using that touched our customers, right? And these were in many ways, very disconnected, had their own data sets out there. And honestly, it was also sometimes very confusing to end customers as to what are they really touching when they provide the capability. And it was really solving for point capabilities, but not really also providing the right insights that we needed to really make the decisions and help our teams create highest value, right? So it was great that these solutions were solving for problems which these SaaS companies had, but it had got to a point where managing these solutions has become a job of its own, right? And has become a complexity of its own. So what is happening here right now? And I know this is your first introduction to this area, so I'll keep it super high level. Happy to jump at some point into weeds of these and what this actually means in context of that. But just what is happening in the space right now? Right now, as we speak, and this has happened literally in the last, I would say, 2 to 3 years, where a lot of these AI-first solutions are changing the game. So there is a real human problem here for companies, like in this specific example, the SaaS companies, where they want to be able to really kind of manage and work with their customers right from the time they first touch their customers to the time they actually make them happy customers from a B2B perspective and a B2C perspective. And they have to the problem they have today, or they are trying to kind of solve for, is that they need to really be in multiple solutions, and the data is scattered across multiple areas, and the ability to really look at all that data and really make sense and be able to manage their customers, which is their primary job, is actually hampered because of that. So that's the real human problem we are solving here. And in that context, what companies are doing is, in the B2B, in the SaaS operating space, there are solutions, AI solutions, which are now basically identifying, when I say ICP, ideal customer profiles, like really being able to. So 10 years ago, when we did ideal customer profile, we had to think about the companies we are targeting, the roles in the companies we are targeting, will they buy our stuff or not, and things like that. But really being able to do that using AI at not just at a company level, really at a person level, really being able to know who is the person I'm selling to, and then being able to really build, test, and execute a personalized strategy and messaging at scale. And that's happening. And that's kind of disrupting the whole, a combination of technologies there is disrupting the whole, if you look at it, the marketing and sales tech stack out there, where people are really able to use AI as an enabler to do a lot of that stuff. And then in the same sense, like then as they get into kind of really talking to their customers about what problems they are solving for their customers, they are able to collaborate more effectively on customer goals, because now AI is able to really go in and really understand what have they solved across multiple customers and really bring those customer goals and being able to help the salespeople and post-sales people have true human first, customer first, human experience conversation, which is helping them do better discovery, helping them, helping customers do better discovery, helping them through the buying process, and then really as they get into support, being able to really provide a really fast human support. In many ways, when we talk about AI here, I feel like, there were days when companies would put in a support ticket and they would expect those to be turned around in a day or maybe a few days. But now with AI, as an example, I'm just taking it as an example, that, you put in your support ticket, your request, and here you go. AI is already working with you to kind of solve for it, and then logically handing it over to the right human if required. If not, it's solving for it itself. And then that is in turn what is really doing is it is really helping the human really use their EQ, right? And really the curiosity to understand and enable their customers and really be able to think deeper on true value they are creating for their customers. Because again, there's a lot of insights getting generated, and that's where specifically Intelo works in, as an example, is really being able to really go in and look at all that unstructured data out there, which people have between customers themselves and their customers, and really being able to provide the insights real time and use that data to really then apply their EQ and human curiosity to drive and enable their customers, right? So that's where we talked about that whole emotional quotient and human curiosity. The point I'm making here is AI is actually kind of empowering the teams to be more, have better emotional quotient toward what their customers are doing, and be able to really use their time more effectively on being innately curious about what their customers are doing and what their solutions can do for their customers. And that's how, at this point, from an AI perspective, we are seeing the SaaS operating world getting disrupted. And then as I wrap this up, I know we need to leave some time for question. Just want to leave a comment out there. And a lot of us kind of seen these movies where AI is that alien attack which comes in. But what I'm seeing in the B2B and the SaaS operating space is that AI is really helping the teams out there use their EQ and their human curiosity and really drive productivity overall and value overall for their customers and for themselves. So, and I think it is going to continue and have hopefully very, very positive impact on the humankind as we look at the future. Open to questions.
Thanks, Rupesh, for such a nice session. I'm a beginner in this in this domain, and it was helpful for me so much. And I guess I'm pretty hopeful that it was helpful for our audience too. Now we have some of questions from our audience. First question is now every company in that industry wants to integrate AI into their systems. So as a SaaS company, so they generally want a customizable AI according to their specific case.
Yeah.
So how do we address this? How do we address this? What are your views on this?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, you're right. So when I think the need for customizable AI is good, right? So this question, as I heard, is as SaaS companies use AI to help their customers, right? So they try to bring in AI into their solution and make it more efficient. There is a need from their customers to come in and say, you know what, I want this to work this particular way. The AI is not really working as I thought it would. And that's where I would say we need to apply like two lenses to it, right? Why is it different? Because if you are trying to kind of train AI in a very specific, AI is as good as the way you train it, the data you feed it. We all know that, right? And if we take that customer input and make it very specific to a customer without understanding the whys behind it, you will end up creating a rules engine and not a true AI platform, right? So basically what I've seen is, and customers, of course, they're still getting used to what AI can produce for them, right? And sometimes come back and say, you know what, this is different from what I'm expecting, and can you please change it like this, as an example? And we have heard feedback from customers like that. So what we have done as an answer to that is making it more explainable, right? Whatever you tell them, let's say you say, hey, for example, we provide insights to our customers saying that, hey, maybe your customer this may be at risk because we are seeing this pattern out here. Now, being able to go and show it and then say, let me explain that to you if they want to see it, is basically the first aspect of it, right? But that said, again, the need to customize what they're seeing is not going to go away. So where we have spent our effort is really customizing the data we bring in, because the ability to really say, you know what, that's great. You want to customize the outcome, but your outcome is actually dependent on the data you're feeding to it. So let's talk about what are you really, what is the data we are feeding it, and is it the right data because of which you're really getting the right output, and not really. And of course, then take the feedback overall from customers and things like that, which is true in any product management or product engineering situation. But when we think about those type of customization, what I'm recommending is be very curious again as to why is it different, and then try to kind of think about the core, make it explainable, and then go back to the data, which is eventually driving the difference, and see if we can tweak it there than really on the outcome and put rules to try to, because I've seen companies try to put rules and try to manage their AI, and then I feel like you're actually curbing the power of AI a little bit by doing that.
Thanks for such a detailed answer, Rupesh. So yeah, that answers my doubts. So yeah, the next question is, how do you envision AI reshaping the future of customer experience, particularly in enhancing emotional intelligence and building stronger connections with users, with customers?
Yeah, I think it's related to that whole emotion intelligence aspect, right? So, and I think we have gone beyond just a bot coming in and saying, "Hey, what is your name? Can I give you this?" We're much beyond that now, right? In the world of conversational, and then really being able to take that information and process the data which is underlying to really provide that insight, right? So when I think about emotional intelligence, I feel, I strongly believe humans are emotionally intelligent by nature, right? What they don't have is the data and the insight which they need to kind of make some of that decisions when it comes to emotional intelligence, right? So I think where, again, I feel AI will play is really being able to kind of cut the noise out and really being able to bring the most important insight which you need to worry about as a human being. And as you think about emotional intelligence, giving you those tidbits which you need to be able to make that decision. Because at the end of the day, I still, of course, when we say decisions, there are smaller decisions which AI will take. But when it comes to that, in empowering human beings to be more emotional, I come back to that whole aspect of steam engines here, right? When we needed to get from one place to another, when we didn't have a railway system, it took a long time, and then we just got tired getting from one place to another. There was no time to basically enjoy the experience of the ride and stuff like that. Now, with all the power which came with technology, people can now get there much safer, much in a much calmer way, and that basically helps the human being more, use their emotional intelligence. I look at AI kind of doing something similar, right? Where things which I couldn't do, for example, I couldn't go look at every single email inside my organization and see if there was a customer problem. Now, AI can do that for me, right? And then I can focus more on, let me focus on the real problems and go solve that, right? Instead of kind of trying to figure out what is going on in all these support tickets or all these emails and all those aspects, as an example.
That was a very great and detailed answer, Rupesh. The next question is, what criteria do you use to evaluate your success and client satisfaction of AI solutions implemented at Intelo.ai?
Yeah, I'll give it at Intelo.ai, but also in general, right? This is a very, and I think as long as, and that's the core of what we're doing at Intelo.ai too, is right. If you drive to how does customer measure value for themselves? So for example, in many of our customers, the value is I need to be able to expand my revenue. And right now, SaaS companies are getting pressured from all directions, right? Around, because of course the market and the pace of growth has slowed down a little bit, and they're getting pushed in all directions and saying, you need to show growth in net retention, growth in ARR, all those fancy things, right? So and that's what today value is for them, being able to collaborate with them and really define what is value and how can I enable that value. And that's why we call our solution as a value management platform. And in that context, I believe every solution, when they work with their customer, they need to really understand whether by talking to customer or whether by looking at data. However, I'm not saying you should talk to every single customer, like really looking at the data and really being able to identify what does value mean and be able to quantify that really clearly in form of metrics. So we have a concept of defining the goals and metrics, and then kind of taking the use cases you're enabling and ensuring that that becomes the core of everything we are doing. And then we kind of actually in our platform also, we enable that by providing to the customer. So at the end of the day, the AI solutions we are implementing should eventually drive towards that goal value and the use cases we are trying to enable, and not all the, of course, the technology enables all that, and having an innovation which suddenly came up and completely being read up to that is very important, because then you can bring that in context to the solution. But those are all just side things you need to think about as you start thinking about the business value and the metrics which you're enabling. And if you keep that in mind, I think your AI transformation will be pretty successful. Otherwise, I think you can do a lot with AI and can be pretty confusing what AI means to a business, right? In that context, yeah.
Thanks, Rupesh. The next question is, what inspired you to find Intelo.ai?
No, thanks for that question. So yeah, it's very near and dear to me. All through my life, the constant, if you see for me, I've worked as an engineer, then ended up kind of working in the internet space, then into customer experience and really experience technologies. And what I saw, one of the things I saw was the pain around information and the fact that the speed at which unstructured data, specifically emails, text, Slack, all those things, as they got, because there's a lot of information inside the organization, which basically I had. So this is literally from the pain point, some of the pain points I called out here, and also the pain point that we had so much data, which was unstructured in emails and Slack and tickets and whatnot, but we still got lots of surprises when it came to what customers wanted and potential opportunities to sell. And I was like, and especially as we did many acquisitions in my previous organization, we saw that was basically even becoming more and more of a constant, because the more acquisitions we did, the less we knew about, as an exec team, less we knew about the customers, other than kind of relying on people. And sometimes their interpretation of information and things like that is different from what might be the underlying kind of truth across the organization. So that kind of was a pain point, which led me to kind of say, this has to be solved. And coincidentally, all the cool AI stuff was happening as we were facing this problem. And we said, we need to jump in and solve this for the world. And as we jump in and try to solve it for the world, we saw that there are a bunch of other companies trying to disrupt this, SaaS operating space. And we were very happy to be part of that ecosystem. And also glad that I was able to have a conversation about it here.
Thanks, Rupesh. That was such a very inspiring journey. One question, one scenario I personally have in mind. A few days back, I was using DALI 3 for image generation. So I told it to generate an image after 10 years, when AI is sufficient to, for now, AI is good in assisting humans. but I guess after some time it will be able to make decisions on its own, like more of a agentic workflow. So I asked it to like give me the image of a lifestyle of human, how it will be after in that scenario. So like it generated an image. So in that a person was sitting in a chair, like relaxed, reading a newspaper and drinking tea, and in his laptop, the AI chatbot was integrating with another AI chatbot to like collaborate and make decisions.
Of course,
So
yeah.
my question is like in the near future when AI is like very good in making decisions, can it be like in SaaS operations, like from your team, AI chatbot is like talking with the customer's AI agent, and both are talking to each other, communicating with each other to make decisions.
I love the what you just said. Yeah, absolutely. I see more than that, right? And this is just as we think about human problems and AI agents getting created for solving human problems, right? So, in this example, you talked about SaaS operations, bunch of AI agents sitting there managing that, and then on the customer side, there's people, and I do believe that is not 10 years away. I believe it is happening as we speak, and not as far away as we think, honestly. Because 2 years ago, if you'd have told me that I can open up my computer and ask a question and some random chat GPT will go in and basically scan the internet and tell me an answer of what I want, you wouldn't have believed it. You wouldn't have envisioned it. And I'm thinking, I definitely think it's happening in the near future. But that said, and that is happening. And my point there was a human is not going to be sitting in his chair and doing what we talked about, because humans have the EQ and HC, which I talked about, and they will figure out the next thing they need to go solve to kind of figure out how the next, these are now table stakes, just like for going from one place to another. Now I can sit in a plane and get to the other side. That doesn't mean that humans are not solving other problems. That gives me the more time to solve other problems and figure out AI technologies. And my thinking there is humans are never going to sit idle, because that's what humans are. They are innately curious, and they would hopefully, what I'm hoping that they spend that time with more humans and try to kind of really, and that is where I have still a question mark. Where are they going to really spend time with more humans, or are they going to really spend time with more AI? But hopefully a combination of that, so that really we can kind of start continuing to drive the human race. And I think we're amazing at that. We have been amazing at that over the years, and we will continue to be amazing at that and not sit idle.
That answers all my doubts regarding this scenario. That was a very great answer, Rupesh. One other question is like regarding your company. So could you share a standout innovation you have spearheaded, whether at Intelo.ai, and its impact on the industry?
Yeah, sure. Like, I'll take Intelo.ai because that's the most recent and could be more exciting for folks as they hear it, right? So the example I was taking, so now with AI, we at Intelo, we have the ability to really look at, of course, you've seen this whole technology before where you can go in and summarize tickets and say, what is this ticket about, right? Stuff like that. Those are table stakes right now. But what we've been able to do is really kind of look at all the data out there, whether it is structured data, which is when it's a structured data, hey, this is the revenue which this company is creating. This is when the company became my customer. These are the type of products they're using, things like that. That's more structured. And then looking at unstructured data, which is basically, hey, I sent this email and this is the content of this email. This is the exact text is in this ticket. I sent a meeting notes or something, all of that. And we are able to really look at that data. And when I started Intelo.ai, I don't think there was technology to really kind of do it at this precision. But right now, although the vision was there, we didn't have the tech, right? And also the related tech out there, which we can enable this. But now, very recently, I believe we've got to a point where we have the ability to understand the past reasons why customers bought more of the solution, or why customers basically churned or left the company, and looking at all this data really in an explainable way, tell the person who's managing a customer or the CEO of the company or whoever wants to look at it and tell them, this customer is potentially going to be gone in 3 to 4 months if you don't change something, because we see this pattern because of all these things which has happened, and explain that, and then give them actionable next steps so that they can move forward with that, right? So that's something which I don't think we could have done 2 years ago, the way we are doing it, and with some of the generative capabilities which have come in has helped us. Some of the conversational capabilities which has come in has helped us. Summarization is much better now. So combination of all of that basically has helped us get to a point where we can say that with high level of confidence, and then customers are using it then to kind of really make decisions to go have conversations with their customers, or automate things with their customers, or expand their existing customer base. So that's basically something I'm really proud of. And the quality of it is something which has changed over the last 2 years. Because we have been doing this for a while, but I've seen this really being to a point where customers are like, oh, I didn't see that, but you found it, right? Which is where I think what we always thought Intelo could do.
Thanks, Rupesh, for answering that question. We are getting a lot of questions. Like one question is that from your extensive experience in technology and recruitment marketing, what has been the most valuable lesson you have learned?
Wow. So most valuable lesson, it's nothing related to AI or technology, unfortunately, is ensure you understand humans who we are working with and work very closely with them to really, because whenever I've done that, and that's been the core of, I believe my success is really being able to really understand the people I work with, the customers I work with, whether AI or internet or whatever we have worked with, and technologies will continue to evolve, kind of being able to really, really understand the situations is the biggest lesson I have learned. And I think that's been the constant, if you look at it, for growth for many companies, even the companies or even organizations that are successful, that's the key. Everything else falls apart when you think about that. Understanding the human pain and I'm not talking just from a customer perspective, right? Even as you work with teams, what does this human being want in his life or in her life, right? And being able to really, and what do I want in my life, and being able to really empower that interaction with each and every human in that process. And that's why you'll see, even in AI, I strongly believe the humans are going to, kind of win. And I say win, they're going to find the next big thing, and they continue to find the next big thing. And AI is going to be kind of one of the technologies out there. But anyways, coming back to your question, that's the biggest lesson learned. Everything else, I think, falls apart when I think about this one particular lesson.
Yeah, that can be a key finding to many people's life. Thanks for a detailed session on inspiring so many learners on SaaS operations and AI. Thanks a lot for a great session.
Yeah, definitely, Rupesh, like for patiently answering all these questions and sharing your personal insights. Also, I was particularly very intrigued by the ICP part, because I'm interested in knowing how it has improved in the sort of quantity of it in terms of percentage of it. So probably next time we'll be having more such discussions, and we were so happy to have you here, Rupesh.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and hopefully folks enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, sure. I hope the same. And next speaker is Shantanu. He has joined us. Hello, Shantanu. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Can you hear me?
Yes, of course. We welcome Shantanu. And thank you so much for taking out your time here. And it has been, this is our day one for the Tech Week. And we are already so proud to have such great entrepreneurs, and being able to get to know their experiences, personal experience as well. So to all the folks, I would like to introduce Shantanu Agarwal. He's a distinguished entrepreneur and investor in energy technology, big data, and AI. So in 2021, he founded Marti Carbon Removals, a project for the Swanati Initiative, dedicated to improving the lives of marginal farmers and fighting climate change. Climate change, by the way, is very close to my heart. And secondly, like MATI employs enhanced rock weathering to enrich soils and consume carbon dioxide, promoting sustainable agriculture and climate resilience for smallholder farmers. Shantanu's entrepreneurial journey has attracted attention from climate action investors, including Frontier, which has committed significant pre-purchases for MATI's carbon removal efforts. His goal is to remove 100 million tons of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere by 2040 while supporting farmers in Global South. With extensive experience in the energy industry, Shantanu excels in marketing, strategy, and business development. His expertise spans oil and gas, renewable energy and technology, product management, and making him a sought-after leader in his field. So we all welcome you, Shantanu, here. Now it's up to you. Over to you now, Shantanu. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to this forum. I really appreciate it. Happy to present a few thoughts on climate tech and climate change, because that's my core sector. And I think AI and computing and the whole sort of tech sector has got a lot of important role to play even in that. But I want to give a quick high-level introduction of what is the need of the hour and probably set out some of the agenda on climate, which a lot of people miss out. So in this forum, I want to start with there. And please, I mean, because we are kind of a cozy group here, I'm happy to stop and sort of respond to any questions as they come. So please feel free to ask questions as we go along. So let me try to share my screen if I can. Still don't have rights to do that. Can you? Yeah, here we go. Great. So let's pull it out. I think so I'll just kick off with my presentation. Maybe you've already given a quick introduction. My background has been in engineering, finance, and entrepreneurship. I have been working in the energy sector for the last 24 years. And the last 7 years, I've focused on climate tech itself, because climate change is probably the problem of our generation, and we need to solve it now, because it's going to be too late if we don't make significant efforts and succeed in the next decade, because after that, it's only going to get further more difficult. As you might be already aware, with a lot of news coverage happening recently in India already, climate extremities are going to becoming quite significant on an annual basis. We are having significantly larger rainfall, more extremities and droughts, and more wildfires, which are seen extensively even in India now, and mostly in the West and Europe quite significantly. Coral bleaching has happened, intense tropical cyclone activity, extreme heat with deadly impacts on that, and hundreds of millions of people who are undernourished. So climate change has a significant effect on us, and our lives are going to be significantly different if we don't try to stop what's going on. So just to give you a feel, for a lot of people don't understand the intensity of what's going to happen. The droughts, which are typically 1-2 months long and cause significant misery these days, because we are almost reaching 1.5 degrees now. As we go to 2 degrees, the intensity could be 4 months average length of droughts. And with 3 degrees, you will have some of the tropical areas permanently in droughts, essentially converted to deserts. So, and this is UN simulations which they talk about. So similarly, for a lot of tropical animals and habitats which are out there, which we are quite proud of, we enjoy the forests. At 1.5 degrees, 4% of these mammals lose their habitat, losing half of their habitat, right? And 8% mammals at 2 degrees lose half their habitat. And at 4.5 degrees, 41% of mammals lose their habitats. So basically what happens is the whole tropical zone, which we call where India is especially, and most of the world's population lives in the tropics because that's the most comfortable location for life to be propelled, those tropics will be unlivable. And essentially, everybody will have to migrate up north or south, causing significant distress and mass extinctions. Similarly, I mean, the wildfires, which are already seen quite significantly growing in a typical Mediterranean summer. Again, this is coming from UN, 41% increase in burned regions, going to 62% and 97% at 3 degrees. So in my book right now, we are already destined to be at about 1.5 degrees because we are emitting about 35 to 40 billion tons per annum. We are at about 1.1, 1.2 degrees already right now, and we will hit 1.5 degrees in the next decade for sure. There's no one stopping us from hitting 1.5. The question is whether we can beat and not get to 2 degrees centigrade and revert the mean from getting to 2 degrees and retaining that. And this is kind of the cycle of that, which is basically causing this whole problem, which is the global greenhouse gases. So the question is whether it's even possible. A lot of people are losing hope and saying that, okay, this is just too difficult a problem, and maybe we should just start off working on mitigation, which is true. We should start working on mitigation for sure, and seeing how we survive the intense heat, which is intense climate change, which is coming at us. But you can see that, especially amongst the developed countries, there's quite a significant decoupling and the CO2 emission reduction, which has happened over the last 2 decades as per capita incomes has increased and CO2 emission per capita and consumption-based CO2 emissions per capita have reduced. And that is also, and furthermore, a lot of the carbon taxes and carbon sort of trading schemes and ETSs, emission reduction schemes, have been put in place in a lot of countries. And in US, for example, in a bunch of states, that's already in play. And most of the European countries have something in play. So laws are coming into play. The global community is coming together to make these laws and try to play their part in that. And more countries are coming on board. Even India is right now working towards their own carbon tax law, which should be promulgated by 2025 in its first version, and then sort of develop from there. So we will also be colored by next year. So we are seeing this happen, and the traction is coming together. So globally, we hope that we can actually take enough action to retain the climate change below 2 degrees, which is the objective at this point. Now, how do you do that? I mean, this is for 1.5, but 2 degrees is gonna similar sort of graph. Basically, you can see that the current emissions are somewhere here. And if you continue to sort of be at this, then at about 40 gigatons, then there's no way that we'll be able to solve the problem. So we essentially need to reduce emissions, which is basically all these emissions in light blue have to be stopped, which is all the power plants and the fuels which are being burned. So basically going away and moving to renewable electricity and more renewable ways to transportation, and essentially avoiding all these emissions which are possible to be avoided. So this whole journey has to be initiated, and a lot of countries and companies are doing that, and more needs to be done. At the same time, there is significant need for also doing negative emissions to really balance the whole net zero proposition, which we need to have especially for the, I think 2040 onwards, this negative emissions plays a very important part to really balance the overall budget which we have to maintain the amount of carbon in the air so that the temperature stays below 2 degrees. That negative emission essentially is carbon removal. And this essentially balances out the unavoidable emissions which are happening. And there is a significant need for scaling that as well at the same time. So there is a market getting created about this carbon removal aspect, which is the negative emissions, which I talked about there, the one in the dark blue here. And that market is growing steadily and becoming an actual industry. And Marty and myself have been playing a part in scaling that and making that a larger, a more viable piece of the overall climate action as possible. So currently the market size is at least going to be 15 billion by 2030 and expected to be $45 billion by 2040 in a medium-term scenario. So as you can see that the price of this durable CDR is quite significant. It's about $300 to $250 per ton, even the low scenario. And the high scenario, as the scale and the volume grows and a lot of industry actually expands into this, and the market is between $40 to $100 billion through 2030 to 2050. The prices will be slightly lower, but still it's going to be quite significantly higher at $150 to $200 per ton, which makes for a $135 billion to $40 billion market. So this is a huge market opportunity where voluntary carbon is being purchased by companies to become net zero or countries to become net zero. Then there are compliance markets established by governments, which we just talked about earlier. Again, purchasing significant amount of carbon, and all this procurement is allowing for this market to scale. And this is data coming out of a BCG report. So we participate in this market, and we kind of scaling an interesting solution to remove carbon by a process called enhanced rock weathering. And our company is called MATI, and we do this permanent carbon removal through enhanced weathering while providing climate resilience to smallholder farmers. So we have focused our solution towards smallholder farmers because they're probably facing the front end of the climate change which is happening, and more of them are getting affected by droughts and reduced productivity. So we're using carbon removal as a tool to not only remove CO2 from air and bury it in the earth, but also at the same time give more incentives and more productivity to farmers. Now, how does that work? Essentially, we're using a process which is called weathering, which happens to typical silicate rocks in nature. And these rocks react with carbonic acid, which forms naturally in air, which has CO2, and water, which is from rain, naturally makes CO2 plus water, dilute carbonic acid, which reacts with silicate rocks. And this weathering process essentially creates and converts the silicate rocks to carbonates and bicarbonates, and also releases a bunch of nutrients into the soils. But this process is very slow because the surface area of these rocks is quite low in general. They're essentially mountains. So what we do is enhance this weathering process significantly and scale it by increasing the surface area 1,000,000-fold for these rocks. And that is by creating dust and then specifically treating these rocks to allow for faster reaction. And then we distribute it in agriculture fields. In agricultural fields, they're naturally irrigated and tilled, so they're mixed well with the soil. And in that kind of environment, especially in tropical regions like India, the rock dust which is spread reacts with the carbonic acid naturally occurring in the soil and forms carbonates and sequesters the CO2. At the same time, it releases a lot of micronutrients to the soil, including a lot of alkali metal ions like calcium, magnesium, copper, zinc, all of these things which are very important to the plant growth, and also plant available silica, which allows for a higher productivity for a farmer. And we are able to support this whole process through carbon removal credits and provide this to the farmer for free, essentially increasing their productivity. So we have this proprietary technology to measure the carbon removal, and that's how we are able to monetize it. We generate high quality CDR credits for enabling our business and scaling it. And we typically sell our credits for greater than $300 a ton. And then we, at the same time, as I said, we rejuvenate the soil on the surface of the agricultural fields with adding essentially the precursor to topsoil and helping new topsoil get formed and productivity improves. We typically see 20 to 30% increase in crop productivity already. We have deployed about 5,000 farms in 5,000 acres in central India already. And we've seen as much as 70% productivity increase for farmers. And typically on average is about 20 to 30%. Obviously, we give it completely free to the smallholder farmers who are in pretty disparate situation in a lot of cases don't have any money for even pesticides or fertilizers safe to pay us anything. So we're trying to scale this, and hopefully we can improve these farmers' income by about $30 million by 2030 on average per annum, adding to these incomes to these farmers as we scale into more parts of India and Southeast Asia and Africa. We've been our customers are Stripe, Frontier Climate, Shopify, H&M, and a number of others who have joined us now. Our original technology and our current partners include Yale University, University of Sheffield, Georgia Tech, Leverhulme Center for Climate Change, and Project Vesta. And our industry partners are certification bodies and trading bodies who are at the front runners of this industry. We're scaling up rapidly in that we are also needing a bunch of software technologists. We have built our own tech stack. We do a lot of data computation with farm data because we take a lot of soil samples. We also measure a lot of soil properties and farmer productivity data. So we have a ton of data to tackle. And then we use that data to predict dynamically what the farmer needs could be, including using climate data and remote sensing data to inform the farmer ahead of them knowing of what they should be putting in the fields and how they should actually optimize their crops so that they can produce more. We're also trying to improve their financial condition by using some of the AI tools to provide them financial solutions which can benefit the farmers. So we continue to hire and build our teams on the data science and finance side, and continue to hire that. Last but not the least, we are working with some of the weakest section of the society, smallholder farmers, and we are increasing their crop productivity, and in some cases, I think most cases, life-changing for them because they're pretty much hand to mouth, and if you increase their productivity by 20%, that is 20% money which they never had, and really allows them to survive through the tough times and have some more safety nets for the future. So we hit on multiple SDGs. The most important one, in my opinion, being the poverty and hunger and inequalities which exist in the society, to allow for these farmers to be prepared for how to protect themselves on the increasing intensity of this climate change which is upon us. So I'll stop there and let's have some more discussion on this. Hopefully it was interesting for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shantanu. Actually, there is a lot of points that I'm actually wondering about myself right now. The one question I have in my mind is like the scalability part where you are working. So what challenges are challenges that you would like to mention with us?
Yeah, so we have chosen to work with smallholder farmers rather than large farmers. So a bunch of there are like 5-6 companies in the world who know how to do this. It's quite a complicated process in terms of the technology required for measuring the carbon. So most of our competitors are in the US and Europe and Australia. Basically large companies working with large farmers because it's easier to measure and easier to implement. But we have chosen to work with smallholder farmers because that's where the impact is the most and probably the need is the most. So the biggest challenge in working with smallholder farmers is that you're dealing with a farmer who has 2 acres or 3 acres of land and really only source of livelihood for the entire year. And you come to them and say that you're going to put this new material in their field. And the kind of trust which is required to allow you to do that is pretty high, because if their crop fails, then they're destitute. They don't have anything to live on. That's their way of making their livelihood. So we have the biggest challenge is really convincing the farmer and getting them onboarded and getting them satisfied that this is something which they should do and which will help their overall quality of life and income levels. And that means that it's a very slow process to really do trials and allow for local leaders to understand what we're doing, and then allowing for a step-by-step scale-up process. So even though the emergency is now and the urgent need is now, we have to scale up slowly and try to take the community with us as we scale. At the same time, the deployment and the execution when you're dealing with plots which are 0.5 acres, 0.3 acres, 0.2 acres is quite difficult. And that's where a lot of our technology tools come into play to help us deploy in a consistent, robust, technologically sort of accurate manner while dealing with something which is so discrete and spread about. You're dealing with land for a farmer, which is split into 10 different plots of 0.2, 0.3 acres, and you have to go and deploy and measure how the carbon removal is done and how the material is deployed in their field. So those are some of the challenges which you deal with. There are a bunch of other technical challenges which are more simple to deal with, but as you know, the biggest challenge are the human challenges in most of the things in our life.
Correct, correct. Yeah, as you rightly mentioned, like many of us are losing hope, as well as some of us have already given up the hope per se, that if the climate change would be reversible or not. So what do you like, how do you see the role of startups in fight against climate change?
Yeah, I think startups have to play a big role in the fight against climate change, because otherwise we will not succeed. The task ahead of us is humongous, and really it is we have to scale this industry to a 10,000x in the next 30 years. Okay, 10,000x scale. That is equivalent to some of the other industries like electric vehicle actually grew about 200x in the last 10 years, right? So it is possible to go, if you do 200 times 200, that's 40,000x, right? So it can actually happen if you are able to put a lot of governmental resources and private capital to work towards a particular industry. So but obviously there has to be a lot of interest and innovation to come in to reduce the costs, to bring innovation to essentially solve this climate challenge as it's intensifying now. So the new startups and the ingenuity of the young minds who can actually solve this needs to come in, and people need to sort of build more startups in this. So that's the reason you'll see the carbon removal industry and the climate tech industry is generally not as cutthroat as you would see a typical software industry to be. There is more of a feeling of there's a blue ocean here. There's so much demand, there's so much need, and there's not enough players. So new startups can easily come in and succeed in this space.
Oh, interesting. I was thinking that the scenario would be totally different, but as you mentioned, this one is a blue ocean domain, and there is a lot of gaps. So I'm also hoping to see more startups in this domain. These were just questions from my end. Amit, would you like to take more of the audience questions?
Yeah, sure. That was very interesting, Shantanu, and it's a very need of the our topic. You spoke about developing community. So I would also like to understand, like at an individual level, what role can an individual play? How do you really understand the economics of climate change, and what steps an individual can get involved with or get started with to be part of the community?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is being aware that we are all emitting carbon, and actually the traditional Indian lifestyle is a very carbon efficient lifestyle. We used to be people who, I growing in a middle class family, I remember when I would get birthday gifts, my mom would actually get me to open the wrappers carefully so we can recycle even the wrappers, right? That's the kind of economy and principles which we used to grow up in. But now our society is also going towards a direction where we are becoming a very consumption oriented society rather than recycling oriented society, which we were in the past. So I think going back to those roots which we actually have inborn in the Indian culture traditionally is the first step. Really recognizing that Mother Earth really needs to be cared for, and we can't just be consuming infinitely and expect that we will just be able to plunder and live successfully for generations in that manner when we are 6, 7, 8 billion people just consuming like crazy is not possible. So I think if each individual understands that we have to be less wasteful for everything, including electricity, including food, including whatever we use, including need for transport, including the way we transport ourselves. So that is probably the first step. Then the second step, so that is something which everyone can do, right? That's easy. That's just going back to how we were raised.
Yeah.
Okay, then the second step is if you have more energy and you want to really do something about it, then you can actually start doing projects around how to reduce emissions for your society, bring on more renewable electricity in your society, in your region. I mean, if you're living in a complex, get with your whatever residential association and put solar panels for your association. I mean, do things which are allowing for you guys to move away from carbon emissions. And then obviously the third and the next is to really go head in like I did and start companies and start solving it by creating technologies and helping industries decarbonize and helping remove carbon from the air. And that involves a lot of technological work and obviously risk taking and then being able to build businesses around it. But individually, we can do a lot, right? Charity starts at home. Let's start there. And then it starts in your colony and your companies. Just let's start conserving. Let's start going towards renewable stuff.
Thank you, Shantanu.
Right.
Yeah, it starts from
Amit, one question I have actually, particularly from this point, because this is very crucial, as in, like, we are encouraged to take up individual steps, but in this society where we are like loaded with technologies which promotes us with more carbon footprints and carbon emissions and others. So, I mean, uh, the challenge is like people are not even being that aware, or if they are even thinking about it, they are not motivated. They are not motivated by external forces. So, are you taking particular steps in your organization for this particular thing?
Yeah, so I mean, we are a carbon removal company. So our carbon footprint is very core to us. So we absolutely measure our carbon footprint. Each individual in our company, in our organization reports their daily carbon footprint or monthly carbon footprint into a system, and it's tracked. So we are essentially measure. If you can't measure, you don't know. And if you're
Right.
measuring, you can see and you can compete and you can understand where are the places where I am actually creating more carbon footprint as compared to my other colleague. And that's probably step one and a way to do it. You can do the same even if you're not working in a company. You can do that in a society and build that for your homes and do a competition like that, just sort of measuring. It's all about initiative and people trying to sort of come together to understand and measure that, okay, they're actually in a consumption society, and yes, that materialism is what's being promoted, but the fact of the reality is that we actually need to go completely the opposite direction. And if we can incentivize that and make that the thing of which makes people famous and get accolades, then that's the way to go.
Sure. Thanks, Shantanu. Amit, you have more questions?
Yeah, I'm getting good questions, good number of
Okay.
questions, in fact. Yeah. So another is, Shantanu, can you elaborate on the current developments in the carbon removal ecosystem and how this ecosystem is evolving? You mentioned
So
less number of players in the blue ocean, so I think it's probably coming from there.
absolutely. So the carbon removal ecosystem is uh, largely built up of, I had a slide on that, maybe I missed that one, I didn't put it here, but there's a significant industry which is getting built, as you can see from the numbers here. And it's not a small industry, it's billions of dollars already. It's probably today's market size is of the order of $5 to $6 billion per annum sold in carbon removal credits to various companies and economies, right? Now, a large portion of that carbon removal is essentially nature-based carbon removal, which is in growing new trees and protecting ecosystems and protecting mangroves and reducing emissions. So I would say more than 90% of that is that sort of market. And then I would say a very small percent, less than 5%, is in the engineered carbon removal, which is what I do. And I've done 2 companies in that now. My first company is a direct air capture company, which is like a machine which takes CO2 out of the air. And the second company is the enhanced rock weathering company, which is in agriculture. These are mechanized, engineered ways of accelerating removal of carbon. And that market creates durable carbon removal, unlike trees. The challenge with trees is that you can burn the tree down and the carbon is again emitted back to the atmosphere, but the more durable carbon removal is very difficult to reverse. For example, in our case, it's made carbonates. Once the carbonates are made, reversing those carbonates requires quite a bit of effort, and especially when they're mixed up with the soil or in the bottom of the ocean, you can't really reverse those carbonates into making silicates. So those kind of permanent removals are gaining traction because a lot of the buyers who have been buying nature-based and sort of more not as durable carbon removal are realizing that they're buying these things and paying billions of dollars for these, but they're not. Big forest fires come and all the money which they've spent over years to purchase and protect trees are disappearing. Now, having said that, both of those things are required. We need the trees and we need the permanent removal. So all of these industries are evolving and scaling, and we need a lot more of all of these things. So there's a massive market, as it shows in this chart here, scaling for both the nature-based pathways, where people are becoming more diligent on protecting them and creating payment systems for people who are protecting them better so that they don't go down in forest fires or don't get cut after the period by some society or some politics. So that kind of stuff is happening on nature-based, and on the durable side, more and more money is getting pumped and more industries are getting created, more startups are coming into play. So that industry is scaling, new startups and new ways to approach this carbon removal is being accelerating, and obviously there's a market, that's the reason this is happening, of billions of dollars scaling to hopefully tens of billions of dollars and then hundreds of billions of dollars.
Thank you, Shantanu. I have a related question to the answer that you gave. It's on soil quality, and I've received the question in chat that the soil quality is low or going down by the usage of many agriculture products. So this process of carbon removal and forming carbonates that you mentioned, will this process will it help it to heal and improve the soil quality as well?
Absolutely. So the beauty of the process which we have followed is essentially using the mother rock, which essentially forms soil. So soil is formed from rocks, right? This is not really something which soil is just born out of rocks.
True.
So, but as the soil is formed, it weathers. Essentially, rock weathering causes the formation of soil, and then soil slowly degrades as it's plowed repeatedly and water runs through it, and the nutrients which are more susceptible to getting dissolved get dissolved in the water and run off. So over years and years of farming, when you're just pumping NPK into the soil, which is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, that's what people are pumping, even the more educated farmers. The core nutrients, the micronutrients of the soil are depleted almost everywhere in India. Those are zincs and coppers and calciums and magnesiums. And especially also, even though soil is made out of silica, a lot of silica is there, plant available silica, which is the ionic form of silica, is also washed off. You essentially have sandy silica. So what we're doing when we add this mother rock powder into the soil is we essentially add the precursor to topsoil. And we're adding essentially a material which becomes new topsoil or adds to the topsoil of the existing soil. So we're really adding dirt to dirt, right? There's not really chemical here. We're essentially putting mother rock into a very degraded soil, which forms new fresh soil. And that really helps the productivity of the plant. And it's similar to we can live on just eating carbohydrates and protein, and we'll be fine. But if we don't have any minerals and vitamins, then we will not be as strong against diseases. And that's what happens. We will survive with just carbohydrates and proteins, but we will not be healthy. That's exactly the same for crops. If the soils don't have any, if they just have NPK and don't have any of the finer micronutrients and the minerals, then they're not healthy enough to really fight disease. And that's the reason the use of pesticides has grown so significantly in our farming today. And what we have seen consistently with the farmers which we have deployed our material in is that there's a huge drop in use of pesticide. They see almost immediately that the plants are healthier and you don't need to put pesticides in them. So yeah, it doesn't harm the soil in any way. It is actually improving the soil and rejuvenating the soil by adding mother rock.
Yeah, you're actually improving the top layer, the quality of the soil. True, very true. That's very interesting. Another question I have is that what is the most valuable lessons that you have gained from your journey in the climate tech industry, and how it has shaped your approach to innovation and sustainability? You did mention about the SDG goals as well. So, like, how you're able to, like, how you're drawing that balance, and what were the most valuable lessons learned?
So that's a very interesting question. I'll answer it in a way which probably is unique to me. So I started out, I was a private equity professional. I was a partner in a billion-dollar fund deploying capital, and I started my first climate tech company, which was a research shop doing R&D and figuring out how to fix this problem. That was 2017. And from there, the first thing I figured out was I need to make a machine which can essentially take CO2 out of the air and just solve this problem once for all. And we'll do it at a scale where we essentially make a machine form, and big, massive machines are everywhere. And we take the CO2 out of the air, and we're done. So that's what I was developing originally. And that's why I started my research. And then I built a company called Sustera, which is a DAC company, which is I'm still on the board of, and it's a US company based out of North Carolina. I'm one of the founders. So having done that, the challenge with the DAC company is it does only one thing, which is essentially removal of carbon from air and then sequestering it into the earth. It doesn't have any co-benefits in the sense that it doesn't really help the society apart from its core purpose, which is removal of carbon. But then I got attracted to enhanced rock weathering, especially because of the co-benefits side of it. Now, so my biggest lesson for myself while doing that was, having done the DAC company, I realized that scaling any of these big brick and mortar companies with a very difficult technology, deep tech technologies, is not easy. And yes, I have done that now multiple times, and I can scale it, and we're building it, but it still takes a lot of time. At the same time, there are significant problems here and now, which also need solution. So if you can actually do something which has a double bottom line, not only solves climate, but at the same time has co-benefits or some sort of immediate societal benefit, that is really the way to scale. And that is the reason I started the Enhanced Rock Weathering Company, because it has significant co-benefits along with the simple and straightforward climate benefits. And I believe that is what's needed in this current time, in this current decade, because the climate effects are going to intensify, and the solution to these things is also needed now.
Thank you, Shantanu, for such an elaborate answer. I think I had a related question, like what were some of the major hurdles that you faced while establishing Marti carbon removals, and how did you navigate through them? I think you partially answered, but if you'd like to take that as well.
So major hurdles, being a private equity guy with having started multiple companies and having raised a bunch of money, I was fortunate that I could have raised venture capital quite easy in this, but I decided to really focus on the farmer in this particular startup. As I told you, I've kind of focused on smallholder farmers in this, and
Yeah.
that is not as profitable as and not as easy. So my company essentially is mission bound to maximize the value transfer to the farmers. And in that sense, we are not an equity raising company. We essentially are run on foundational grants and debt. And we have raised a bunch of money in that. And being a private equity and an entrepreneur who's always run venture capital based companies in the past, that was a big hurdle for me, really, to figure out how to get foundational grant money to do something which was completely for farmer benefit, and try to build a company which has the best technologies and best motivations, but having to attract the best people who are mission oriented, and yet they're working for something which is not directly a venture capital 100xer, So that has been a real balancing act, where we have now created a structure where it's farmer first, climate second, and then our people third, and then profits the fourth. So it's really kind of a staggered approach, but we are putting our employees and farmers as the two stakeholders which we take care of, and we are ensuring a company which is built for the interest of these two stakeholders rather than investors. And so that was the biggest sort of change in how I've built this company, and has been a challenge to really solve for that, because it's not something I've done in the past. As I said, venture capital would have been a much easier path for me. Apart from that, I think the normal building a company problems are always there, and I don't need to regurgitate all those problems, which are the solving for the market risk and the people risk, the team risk, and the product market fit, and establishing the trust of the customer. All those problems exist as such, and you got to solve them one by one and figure out a solution around them. And I've done that a few times now. So I guess you guys have heard enough startups talk about that, so I won't talk about that.
That was really fascinating, Shantanu. You have taken a very difficult and a challenging goal, and we wish you all the best. That's all. That's all the questions I had for today. Thank you so much, Gargi.
Yeah, thank you, Shantanu. I only see comments from the viewers, but not many questions. So thank you so much, Shantanu, for taking out some time from your schedule, and we hope to host you soon, probably sooner.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And I think your crowd and your audiences are mostly made of tech people. So we are hiring passionate backend engineers and data scientists who would like to, if they're interested, please contact us, and you can check out our website at marty.earth. So I'll put a plug there for ourselves.
Definitely, we will also be mentioning on our PETs. So we also assist people in placements. So we conduct these proctored examinations. So we'll definitely reach out to you for the hiring part as well. Thank you, Shantanu.
Thanks.
Thank you, Shantanu. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Bye. Good night. So now we are concluding with day one for the tech week. So Amit, would you like to go ahead with the closing remarks?
You can carry it forward, yeah, Gargi.
All right. All right. So audience, thank you so much for your time. And we would like to have you on our day two with new speakers, and that would be definitely very much insightful. Be prepared with your question and answers. And here is the list of speakers just on the slide that you are seeing right now. And we will be also emailing you with the details of the speakers and the event details further. Thank you so much. Thank you. See you tomorrow, guys. Thank you. And reach out to cloudxlab.com for any other queries that you have. Our official email address we have listed here. It's reach@cloudxlab.com. Apart from it, we have also shared our contact details on our website also, cloudxlab.com. So see you guys tomorrow with new speakers and new questions and new discussions. Thank you so much. Thank you, Amit, and thank you, Shubh, for being here. Thank you.
Thanks, Gargi. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.